On this episode, I interview Adam Egypt Mortimer, the director of Archenemy and Daniel Isn't Real. Enjoy.
Your thing. What's your favorite pedal that you have?
I'm more of a fuzz and distortion guy, so I got a lot of distortion pedals. My favorite is a place out of Portland called Black Hawk Amps, and they do like amps and pedals and stuff like that. And I got a Uruk-hai fuzz pedal, which I just love, man. It's nasty as hell.
Did you ever use the Metal Zone? I think it was.
I did. That was
pedal.
one of my first pedals when I started playing guitar.
Dude, me too. I was in a metal band a long time ago called Tetsuo, and I rocked the Metal Zone. It was so awesome. It felt like cheating because it's like all the guys that created the sound used something so much more kind of stripped down, and they figured it out. But it just sounded so good.
Yeah, I loved it.
Like those muted like obituary death metal, power chord sounds. Like I was very into creating that.
Yeah, I thought I was a dime bag back in the day with that pedal. I was like, man, that's what chugs should sound like.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. How long were you in the band for?
It was like, the earlier part of my life. So, starting in high school, when I was in kind of a rock band, and then in college, I was in a metal, we played variations on kind of, doom and doomish, kind of grindish, it was with like science fiction themes, it was kind of like I was listening to Godflesh and writing songs about how miserable it would be to be trapped in a cyborg body, that kind of thing. And right. then for a while after that, I was into very like experimental music. I was playing like the electric sitar and like signal generating boxes that would give me electric shocks every time I tried to turn the dial. And that was actually, that was a band that like I toured with a bit and put out some records, and that was really interesting. And then I essentially just was like, just quit. I was like, now I'm going to be a filmmaker. I can't be distracted. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, I really like just was like, okay, I had to like just walk away from playing music because I felt like I didn't want to be kind of splitting, trying to achieve like too many goals.
Right.
But it was cool because then after I finished Daniel Isn't Real, I bought a keyboard, like just like a little mini keyboard, and started fucking around with. I was like, okay, maybe now there's space in my life to like have a creative outlet that's not like my career. I could just do something for fun. So then I started recording, kind of abstract electronic stuff, and that was really satisfying.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now myself, is just doing like some abstract stuff, because I was in a band for over 15 years and I toured the U.S. multiple times, and it took so much time out of doing anything I like to do with like horror and everything like that, and writing. I could do nothing else, so all I did was band stuff every day.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I feel like, for me, it's really like I have to be, I want to be like driven and focused, and this is the thing. And it's hard when you're really just like deciding between who am I? Am I this guy? Am I that guy? So I think, you kind of got to make those decisions. But what was it like when you ended the band? Was that like that must have been really tough after 15 straight years?
Yeah, it was kind of a mutual thing between all three of us, just kind of going through some hard times a little bit. And it was just that end of the road for us, we've done it so long, and we made good progress and everything. And it was sad, for a while after, like, man, what am I going to do now? Then like, probably like I'm going on like a year and a couple months now running my website and stuff. And I started really getting heavily into like, writing reviews and stuff and doing like the interviews and everything like that. So it's been filling that gap, that that creative gap I have there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, do you feel like are you attacking that with the same kind of ferocity that you attacked being in a band?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
If I'm
rad.
not doing anything, like if I'm not doing like interviews or writing something, I'm like promoting like crazy, on Facebook,
Mhm.
Twitter, all that stuff, just driving people crazy, tagging them in crap. Because you got to do that. That's what I did with the band. I mean, we ended up getting like 40 something thousand Twitter followers because of me running the
Oh
social
wow,
media pages. Yeah,
sick.
that was a lot of work though. I'm like, man.
Do you go to a lot of festivals?
Not really, because I didn't have time to really do that because my time off was pretty much for touring or
Mm-hmm.
recording. So I wasn't able to really make any festivals. So hopefully that'll change after all this craziness is done with, That's a goal of mine. I like to make
Yeah.
some festivals.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never been to Fantastic Fest, man, it's just the greatest
I
in
hear that one's
Austin.
great.
It's so much fun. It's like I go to that one every year. I've never it's the only one I go to just for fun. Like usually, like I go to all these festivals because I have like a movie there or whatever. Fantastic Fest I just go to like I've never played a movie there, and I just go there and all my friends are there, and you just see, after 4 days, you've seen like 25 movies that are all going to be so fucking crucial for the next year. Just like the best, and everybody is just so cool and into it. It's a really like if you are just once we're in the after times, when you're
Right.
looking at your schedule and you're like, I don't know, I should get out. Like that's the one. Like that's the one to go to, and then everything else would be secondary after that. Like you would love it. You'd have so much to write about. All the direct. It's really small but
Hmm.
very intense. So you're hanging out with all the filmmakers, like just rat. And plus I did 2 years there. I've done the boxing match they have, was just insane. And
Oh,
they have,
they do a boxing match, you said?
yeah, they do a thing called the Fantastic Debates. That's like, they do, it takes place in a boxing gym, and you get up on a podium against somebody else and you debate like some bullshit thing, like which Stephen King adaptation is the best movie.
Hmm.
And you do 2 rounds of debate, and then they take away the podiums and you put on boxing gloves and you do 2 rounds of actual boxing. And it's fucking vicious and insane. I did that 2 years in a row there, which was really, really fun and kind of got me into, like, I trained for it really seriously because I was fighting a guy who was huge. Um, and just a little, everybody can use a little blood sport in their life.
Oh yeah, you got to. That's why I lift weights. I have to do something to get that out. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my God. Yeah. It's been tough in the pandemic. I bought one of those, a punching bag that's like it's like shaped like a dude, it's like a big rubber
Yeah.
man. I put that in my backyard and I'm out there every day. Like I'm fucking Bruce Wayne, like train, it's just like standing on my bricks, like punching this dude in the backyard.
Yeah, those are awesome. I've always wanted to get one of those, but we live in a townhouse, so I don't have a lot of room or a backyard really. So
Hmm.
I'm limited to what I can do. So, and I don't think my cats would dig that too much being in the living room. So they're
Yeah,
all
my
right.
cat always gets real concerned whenever I start hitting the thing. Like I go outside and he's like, "Oh, cool, we're hanging out outside. Yeah, it's a beautiful day." And then I start punching the thing, and he's like, "I am out of here. Like clearly, I'm next. I don't want to catch any of that."
Like, yeah, I saw a post earlier you had about you're a cat person. Like that's awesome, man. Like you can
Yeah.
judge a lot about somebody on their animal choices.
Yeah, I love cats, man. My guy is like really crucial to me. I have a birthday party for him. I've gotten to the point where I have birthday parties for my cat, like, and because he's a black cat and he was born right around Halloween, so it's a
Uh,
Halloween party, but
nice.
I bring out a cake. At midnight, like I ring a bell. I'll be having like big parties, and like I ring a bell and make everybody stop and sing happy birthday to my cat. And not only do I do that, but it started to get, so now I mean, this is obviously in the before time, but then I would have a half birthday party for him also, so that it could double as a halfway to Halloween party. So like a year ago, whenever it was before lockdown, I was able to have a Halloween party / cat birthday party right in the middle of the spring, and still got everybody to dress up and was in costumes, and we sang to the cat. It really just absurd. But you got to give, cats are so ridiculous, like they're really like malleable to your sensibility of like what could be cool to do with them. And they kind of scorn you, but they dig it at the same time. It's such a
Right.
funny relationship.
Yeah, I love cats. Like all this craziness like going on right now is so awesome. That we have two cats. I have an orange one and we have a black cat. And the orange
Nice.
one's kind of like my wife's cat. That's kind of like her. You know, he picked her as her human. You know what I mean? And the
Hmm.
black cat literally picked me as I'm her human. So she's always in my lap and stuff like that. You can't really pick her up because she's pretty chunky.
Uh-huh.
If you go to pick her up, she just kind of like goes out of your arms, all this stuff, and she'll try to kill you. So that's a no go. But like
Mhm.
Melvin, who is the named after the band Melvins, he's
Oh,
an orange
that's
cat.
awesome. I
He's
love
like
that.
a hugger and stuff. You can pick him up. He's like I think 21 pounds, so he's a big boy.
Hmm. Wow, yeah, that is big. I mean, it's all right for them to be big. It's
Oh yeah,
nice. It gives you more warmth. I just love.
yeah.
There's nothing better than falling asleep at bedtime with my hand on my purring cat. Just like picking up those vibrations. I love that more than anything.
Yeah, it's
And
super relaxing, man.
it really is, and it's worth the occasional open wound that you might get scratched on your arm because you played with them too hard. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I was out on a tour one year, and my wife sent me a picture. Melvin, our orange cat, like says 21 pounds. He opened her chin up like she was trying to give him medicine, I believe, on his tail. I mean, this is horrible freaking scratch all the upper side of her face.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, so they can be pretty brutal, but she was trying to put medicine on him and stuff. It's not the normal thing.
Yeah.
So he's usually, but it's that relationship between us and the cats. They can scratch us. We don't give a fuck. We still love them.
Yeah. I know. They're really the ones running the situation. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah, I think secretly it might be the aliens that are
Yeah.
already you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that would make sense. So like both your movies from the past couple years are in my like top 10 list easily.
Oh
First one.
man, thank you so much. That's the part where it's like worth it. The whole time you're working on the project is so miserable, and then having people seeing that it connects to people is like, that's it. That's why we do it.
Yeah, yeah, and the kind of movies I like if it tells you anything, Mandy is my favorite movie of all time. So I'm into that shit
Yeah,
where
right on.
you got like really I like to feel the movie and stuff like that. I love my slashers and everything like that, but like when it comes to like movies, I like to be the like feeling like atmosphere and everything. You like kill it with that.
Mm, mm. Yeah, man. No, thank you. That's the thing that's really important to me about movies is like if you can reduce a movie down to its Wikipedia article or like what happens, that to me that's like not what a movie is for. You know what I mean? It's like the movie needs to be like the world that you feel and like the way that it's expressed. It's like it's not what happens, it's how it happens. It's like how
Right.
does that make you feel? And that's really been like I think the thing that I've been pursuing to like understand about filmmaking and understand about movies is like creating these feelings, creating this kind of immersive sensibility. It's why I'm so obsessed with like the colors and the sound
Hmm.
and saying okay, well I'm going to make a movie about this like depowered crazy person, maybe superhero that really could go in any direction. But for me that was like that's kind of like the way into doing this thing that's going to be all about the feeling of it, and so this sort of cosmic but also grimy and like mixing those kind of feelings together. So I'm really happy to know that that's the kind of thing that's working for you when you watch this stuff.
Oh yeah. With Archenemy, what were your like inspirations of making Archenemy? Like what got you motivated?
I think one of the things that the idea that I had first had was to do a superhero that was like The Wrestler,
Hmm.
where it was like a movie I just had that image of like, there's this guy, he's got like a tattered cape and he's sitting at a bar drinking whiskey because all of his glory is in the past. Like that seemed like so rich and fruitful. And, and it was also this feeling like we have all experienced so many superhero movies now
Hmm.
that it felt to me like the time from when my favorite time from when I was reading comic books, which was in like the 80s, and you had people like Bill Sienkiewicz drawing images of Elektra Assassin, with the Frank Miller comic that they did together, where it's like it expected that you understood everything there was to understand about a superhero, so it could go instead into like exploring the psychological dimension or being like very expressive with how it felt. And I was like, I think we're ready. I think after like 57 Marvel movies,
Yeah.
we know what a superhero is.
Right.
So how can I take the idea of that kind of a movie, but apply like a totally different aesthetic? And the more I was writing it, the more it was like, okay, I know I said I wanted this to be the wrestler, but I can't help myself from instantly going into like parallel universes and black holes and you know, all of these kind of things. So it becomes this kind of cosmic craziness, because I was like, everybody's ready. Like, we understand that now. I think, you know, I couldn't have written Archenemy 10 years ago. I could have written it, but nobody, you know, like the movie going audience might not have been caught up to understanding that superheroes are actually this like cosmic mythology. You know, they're not about a guy in a cape punching people in a city. They're about this whole crazy cosmic realm. And so then I wanted to combine those kind of ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it worked perfectly, and like it was like such a refreshing take on all that, because like the Marvel movies, I'm not a big fan of. I think my favorite Marvel superhero movie, you want to call it that, would be Blade. You know, and Blade's like, you know, the anti-hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the shower of blood, man.
Yeah, that was like one of the best scenes, especially when I was a kid, man. Seeing that in the movie theater, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. I wonder why he's not part of their universe.
I think he might be too edgy, possibly. I'm not sure. Like, from I get from the Marvel movies, like they're all this, I don't know, kind of cookie cutter. Like, I don't know, polished, and not my thing. I tried.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to me that they've been able to make so many movies that are like, that have this consistency, that all have a feeling, and you can pick up any one of the Marvel movies, and some are better than others, and some have better action or more meaningful or less meaningful, but like they all basically are in the same style. It's like a house style. And I think that's interesting that they were able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want all movies to be that. And I after 10 years of watching those movies, I don't want people to be confused into thinking that's the only way a movie can be. So, you know, because to me, it's all about what can a movie do? What can a movie look and feel like? What kind of weird things can you get away with?
Right.
So I don't know. I don't resent Marvel, and I think some of them are super cool. I think there's some sequences in like Doctor Strange that are totally mind blowing and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, for me, my whole kind of motivation was like, what else can we do? If we call it a superhero, where can we take that? You know, where can we be inspired by Wong Kar-wai or Nicholas Refn, or, you know, just like cool shit? You know, how can I take like when I was a kid, I saw the movie Repo Man, and that movie, I think it, like anything I ever saw after that, I was like, wait a minute, I thought a movie was supposed to be like that. You know, like that's a movie. It's like, it's fucking punk rock, and there's an alien in a trunk, and people are disintegrating, and there's just like these tangents talking about synchronicity and aliens, and then suddenly in the last 20 minutes, everybody's running around with a gun, and it's like an action movie. And I remember being like, that's the most insane thing I've ever seen, and also that's what all movies should be like.
Yeah.
So, there was a bit of that DNA for me when I was working on Archenemy.
Yeah, I could definitely. I love the colors and all you use for Archenemy, like the kind of blues and reds. That really hooks me in there. And there's some like purple stone in there too. It's like, I love that feel, man. You know.
Yeah, I think you know, it's all in service of trying to create this like immersive experience, and you know, knowing we wanted to do some animation and like how that was going to connect to the world that it takes place in. I mean, I just love colors, and I love trying to be like, you know, fairly limited with them. You know, like sometimes my costume designer in Archenemy, and Michelle Lane, and obviously she's brilliant, and all of the characters are so cool looking, but like sometimes she'd come at me like, here's this shirt I want her to wear, like, you know, it's got all these different colors on it, and I'd be like, no, it has to only be blue. We are in the blue part of the movie, only blue. And she'd look at me like I was insane, but then we'd go back and look at it, and she'd be like, oh, I get it now. It's like, that's the whole, it's defining the I think the more you limit colors, the more that the colors you put in start to be really meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Soundtrack too had a lot to do with that film. Like the soundtrack really, also drew me into it and stuff. I got that same feeling from Daniel Isn't Real as well. So I mean, I guess music does play a big giant part in your films, I would think.
Yeah, and having been a musician, I think that's probably a thing I'm super attuned to, and using music probably in ways that are more overpowering than simply being punctuations to the story, but really, like, I mean, in both those movies there's just constant music, constant soundtrack, and constant sound. And I mean, in some ways I think in the future I want to challenge myself to see, can I do stuff when there's less music and let the drama kind of come forward. But for these movies, like, just wanting that sort of sense of relentlessness and the Spectervision, the producers on the movies are really good, really good at music, and they they introduced me to Clark's music, the person that did the Daniel Isn't Real soundtrack. They gave me his albums, and they were like, we love this guy. We've always thought he'd be good at doing soundtracks, and I talked to him and sort of connected with him on that movie. My whole idea was I was like, I want it to be like Bernard Herrmann. I want it to be like the music from Vertigo, but all fucked up. And like if Trent Reznor like just put all of that music into like a industrial threshing machine. And Clark really responded to that idea, and he went and he recorded a string quartet, to like really get that like Bernard Herrmann string thriller sound, but then he brought it into his system and fucked with it and re-recorded, and I love, he was giving us so much, so many ideas, even early on, when we were editing, we were able to start putting in his original music and seeing what it would feel like. And same with Archenemy. We worked with a guy named Umberto, has all these great records. I think he started out, you can tell by the name, kind of making music that was inspired by like, Italian horror movies soundtracks.
Right.
But he's like a trained composer. He went to Berklee School of Music. Like, he knows, so much about music. And I was talking to him about like krautrock from the 70s, and this is a movie that's like, it's cosmic, but it's also really sweaty and drunk, and like, how can we kind of find cosmic sounds, but also just like gnarly. There's the part in Archenemy where Max is like walking. It's a long sequence of him just walking up this ramp up to a bridge, and he's wearing his cape, and it's this kind of like guitar driven music that's playing, and it goes into the animation sequence. And I was talking to Umberto, and I was like, it should sound like a band that's really drunk, like this heavy distorted guitar band, but they're drunk. It's like a stoner metal band, but they're fucked up. They can't quite play in sync. And then as it goes into the animated sequence, it should feel like it's that same band, but suddenly they're like a crisp industrial band, so we would have like sort of fun, imaginative conversations like that about how the music was relating to the feeling in the images.
Right. Yeah, to me, I think music can make or break a film. There's a lot of cool films out there with horrible scores, and it's not the same for me.
Yeah, I know. You really, I want to make movies that you can come back to and watch again, and like, just because like you like the experience, like the first time you watch it, and you're like, oh, now I know what happens, and then you go back and watch it the way that you listen to, records over and over again. And so I think that's, if my movies succeed at having kind of like rewatchability, it's because of that juxtaposition of like the music with the images and the sound of the actor's voice. I talked to Joe Manganiello, one of our first conversations. I was like, you say all this crazy shit in the movie, and you're talking about string theory and black holes, but like, I don't want you to think about that as exposition. I don't care if people understand what you're saying. The way that you talk should be like when Kerry King plays a guitar solo in Slayer. Yeah, because he's a metalhead too. So I knew that we had that like vibe together, and it's like, Kerry King is not like, how can I craft a melody. You know, he's like,
there's no melody there.
he's like, how can I just make this like explosive thing that sounds fucking cool and is maybe in the same key as the song, but you're not listening to Kerry King for like legibility, you know, or coherence. You're looking for this kind of just like aesthetic explosion. And so that's, you know, even the kind of the quality of the talking in the movie, I would think about in those kind of music terms.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed Joe's performance. I seen him in I think, what was it, True Blood? I was watching it with my wife. I first met my wife, she got me into True Blood. I'm like, all right, I give it a chance. He says, like, oh, it's pretty cool. You know, it's not bad. And then, you know, Joe was playing, I think, the werewolf part, and I was like, this is pretty badass. And he made a good choice to be like the badass, you know, superhero down on his luck, you know, like that's a great choice.
Well, he's so great, you know, and I think, you know, he's been known for his physicality, you know, he's been known for True Blood and he's been known for Magic Mike, but like there's a real actor in there. Like he is an awesome, you know, trained theatrical actor. And so, you know, he and I were both so excited about this movie for that reason, that it would kind of give him this platform to be so much more emotionally expressive and kind of deconstruct his charming, handsome look that we're all familiar with. You know, I mean, to me, that was really like the crux of this story that's about, you know, essentially a version of Superman. You know, like you can definitely buy Joe as Superman, but then he gets you to buy him as, you know, schizophrenic homeless man. And I just love him for that.
Yeah, he killed it. And also, I thought it was cool having Glenn from Always Sunny in Philadelphia be like pretty much one of the arch enemies in there of Archenemy. I was like, man, that's awesome because I'm a big Always Sunny fan.
Me too. I love that show. I've been watching it since the first season, and so it was such a trip to be able to have Glenn, who, you know, I think similar to Joe, he was like, you know, I want to act. I'm here to be an actor. Like I love doing my show and I love being funny, but I'm an actor. Like what can we do with this character? And you know, and again, it was so rad to have somebody sort of that talented and that capable of being menacing and psychotic. I mean, you know, you could take Always Sunny in Philadelphia and like make a couple adjustments and he would be like American Psycho, you know. I mean, he's just so good at being psychotic. And so with Archenemy, it was like, you know, it's still heightened, it's still colorful and weird, but he's, you know, he gets to be like kind of menacing and maybe like a more dramatic, upsetting kind of way, and also still be funny. I mean, I love what he did. The fucking scene where he's wearing like the tennis shorts is just just so beautiful.
that mustache too we have, that was awesome.
I know, I love it when I get these actors who really want to like transform their look. You know, I think Glenn was looking at this as an opportunity. He's like, I'm going to do something different. I don't want to show up and just look like Dennis. You know, so he had these ideas about, I want to be blonde. I want to have a scar. I want to have a mustache. And it's just like, I love when actors sort of bring that to you and it helps them transform. Patrick did the same thing in Daniel Isn't Real. You know, the first thing he started talking to me about was, I want to dye my hair black. Here's what I think I should be wearing. You know, he was very involved in kind of the creation of the physical presence, which I think can help actors to feel like they are somebody else, you know, to feel like they are a different person, they're a different character. They're not playing themselves. They're playing this like weirdo in this new style that they've created.
Right. Yeah, he definitely filled that role well.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's Glenn from Always Sunny. I also enjoyed Skylin and Jessica's performance. I've never seen neither of them in anything else before besides this, and I was like pretty impressed with what they got going on.
Yeah, Skylin's great. Do you mean Jessica played the woman at Trendable? Do you mean Zoli, who plays?
Yeah, I'm
sister?
sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Zoli is like a superstar, man. She's like, you know, that was a character on the page. Indigo is really written to be like, she's colorful, she's energetic, like she's doing this dark thing, but you know, you can tell that she's a really imaginative, interesting person. And when I met Zoli, she was just so like, oh, she is that person. Like she's got those giant eyes, and she's just like so cool. And Skyland's lovely, man. Like that was a character that we needed to kind of believe that we want to protect, and that he's really a good person. He's like trying to get his thing out there. I did some sessions with them, just having the two of them just kind of be brother and sister and see what that would feel like. And I think they really just did a lovely, lovely job. I would definitely work with them again. They were awesome.
Yeah,
and she played Indigo. Zoli is in the TV show about the history of the Wu-Tang Clan. So she plays the RZA's sister, which I just thought was such a dope kind of pedigree. All throughout the shoot, I was constantly challenging her to a rap battle, but she didn't really want to do that with me. I think she was trying to protect my ego. She didn't want to embarrass me.
Yeah, she definitely gives off the like presence of badass. You know what I mean? Like, she seems badass.
Yeah.
You think, or you plan on like expanding this universe and like having some sequels based off this same universe, or?
I would really like to. I thought about the whole universe of the story pretty deeply, and I wrote an outline for, I think, what could be maybe a graphic novel sequel that kind of picks up where the movie ends, but then also goes backwards and tells you, stories from before the movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also thought a lot about how it's actually connected to Daniel Isn't Real. Like in both of the movies, you can see this kind of cosmic vortex, and
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of doing something that could connect them together. I would love to do that. I don't have a lot of immediate control over whether or not that's something that could happen, but certainly the stories are there for me, and it would be rad to go back and do more stuff in those worlds for sure. I would love to do that.
That would be awesome. How do you enjoy working with Spectervision? I'm pretty much like I'm a number one fan guy for them. It was gold to me. So
me too, man. I was a fan before I started working with them. I don't know if you remember back when the company first started, they were called Woodshed, and I remember even
briefly.
back then when they were called Woodshed, and I was trying to get my first movie made, and I was like, I got to get in touch with these guys. Like they're so clearly on the same wavelength as what I'm doing, but I couldn't get in touch with them. I emailed them and wouldn't hear back and stuff. And then I made my first movie, and then met them at a festival. And I was like, you guys, oh my God, you're Spectervision. Like, you got to check out my movie. And so I was really coming at them as, a fan of what they were doing and what they represented. So it's been like amazing to wind up working with them. And, with Spectervision, you're not like trying to manipulate them into making the weird movie you're trying to make or whatever. It's like this really honest, like everybody's all there to make the same kind of movie. And like, they really believe in this like very specific sort of vision. And they believe in like the emotional reality, the emotional depth of genre stories. Mm-hmm. And, and they're like psychedelic weirdos, and you combine those two things together, that like emotional intensity and interest in kind of like floating into the ultra terrestrial, noosphere. And it's like, okay, these are my people. And when I communicate to them about what I'm trying to do with the story, or why I have a scene this way, or, you got to help me figure this thing out. Like, we're totally on the same page.
Yeah. And I believe Elijah Wood is like the main man over there, correct?
Yeah, he's partners with two other people, with Daniel Noah and Lisa Whalen, and so yeah, it's awesome working with a producer, working with Elijah, who has, he's worked with so many of the best directors and been in so many incredible movies, and he just has like such a finely honed kind of sensibility and taste for things that are going to work. So I love having him available to us, and hey man, what do you think about this music, or what should we do here? Like, he's great.
Yeah, he seems like he might be a metalhead too. Am I correct on that one?
I haven't heard him talk about metal much. I know, he's super into music, and he has, he's got like a wall of records that you need like a big tall stepladder to get up. He's just He's super into music. Like you could go very, very deep in a lot of different directions about music with him.
Yeah. I try to stay pretty diverse myself. Like metal's my number one, but I like a lot of like Drab Majesty and stuff like that. Like Drab Majesty is like my favorite shit right now. Fucking love Drab Majesty. I don't know if you listen to them or not, but
no, I haven't heard them. I'll have to check them out.
If you're into like old school like 80s and like Depeche Mode kind of, The Cure, stuff like that, but add like a modern day touch with the synthesizers and stuff to it, It's super dark. You got Drab Majesty.
Right on.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What were some of your or what are some of your favorite horror movies like from, let's say, the past 20 years? Like, what's a few of them that you really, really like?
Martyrs was such a big one for me. When I saw, there was a period of time when I first saw kind of at a whole bunch of those French movies. Martyrs was one, and Calvaire was another one. And both of those movies just like totally blew my mind, because I was like, oh, these movies feel like, especially with Calvaire, it was like you can feel how these are kids who grew up loving the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also they're French, so they bring this insane European art experimental sensibility to movies that are essentially built from the house that Tobe Hooper built. And I love it. And it really blew my mind and really helped me understand horror movies can really be about something, and they can have these like incredible performances, and they can really surprise. I think one of the things that's so cool about Martyrs, there's many things that are cool about it. It's known for sort of its extremity, but the thing that's really remarkable about it is how surprising it is minute to minute. Like it's like, oh my God, now they're doing this. Oh my God, oh, it's real. Oh, it's not real. Oh my God, I can't believe she shot her. Like, it's all crazy, like crazy storytelling. And then I think by the third time I watched it, when you kind of get past the brutality of it, I was like, oh, it's actually a beautiful movie about love and friendship, right, in the extreme language of a horror movie. So I just love that movie so much. I mean, it's always coming back to the French. Like I thought Raw was one of the best horror movies I've seen in years and years. I think she did such a beautiful job at telling a story about, a young girl in college, and it's like, who is she and her identity and her sexuality, but it's like this insane cannibal movie at the same time. Right. And I just loved that imagery. What are my other favorite horror? The Adam Wingard's early movie, A Horrible Way to Die. Huge impact on me. And it's why I was so stoked to be able to get Amy Seimetz to be in Archenemy. I think Horrible Way to Die was probably the first movie of hers that I had seen. And again, that's another one where it's like, it's like a drama about, recovery and trauma and healing, but also totally insane, serial killer hook. And I love it when because Cronenberg is one of my all-time favorite directors, and I think that he really early on, you look at a movie like The Brood, which is just mental, but it's also his way of processing a divorce, his divorce. And and I think that horror movies are always at their best when they're coming from like a really personal, kind of driving obsession or emotional fascination, and then you turn that into the horror vibe. Larry Fessenden does that too. A movie like Habit, which is about alcoholism and broken relationships, but it's also a vampire. And like that's always what I look for in horror, is that that feeling that it's about something real, but also is taking crazy chances. I think horror movies let you do things cinematically. You look at some of the experimentation in like Midsommar, right? And especially the first 20 minutes of that movie, where suddenly you're seeing that the parent's death, and like the way that it's filmed is just so insane. And you can do these things in horror that I think it's harder to do when you're in a different sort of genre space.
Yeah, totally agree on that. I remember with Adam Wingard, one of my favorite films from him was what was it, The Guest?
Yeah, The Guest.
Man, that shit blew me away.
Yeah, it's such a great kind of aesthetic exploration, and you think it's one thing when it starts, and suddenly you're partway through the movie and you're like, holy shit, this is like the fucking Terminator. Like, what is going, like, where are we? It's so cool. I love it when genres just like slither around corners like that and become something that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, it's a nice little surprise for sure. What would you say was your favorite last year? Anything that really caught your eye last year, movie-wise?
I really liked The Hunt, man. Like, I thought that movie was so surprising and cool. And like, the first 20 minutes, everybody is just being like horrifically eviscerated, and you have no idea who the main character even is. And then Betty Gilpin comes in with a performance that like reminds me of Nicolas Cage. She was just like totally on fire in that movie in a way that I don't think any of us were ready for. So I thought that was, just so, I don't know, sort of bold and insane. What else did I love from last year? Did you see Shirley? Shirley was an interesting movie. It was sort of like a poetic biopic about Shirley Jackson, who wrote The House on Haunting Hill, the novel, and she's played by Elizabeth Olsen, and like she's this like frayed, mentally disturbed, weird woman, and then this young woman comes to stay at her house, and it's this kind of like strange, psychedelic relationship between the two of them while she's writing her first horror novel. It's not really a horror movie, but it's not, I don't know, it's not any other kind of movie either. It's like such a strange, kind of disturbing, weird vibe.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that one, but I've always like passed through it when I think it's on Hulu, I believe, and I would pass them like, man, that looks good. I'm gonna go back and check that one out. Then end up checking something else out, and that goes down that road.
It's definitely worth a look. It's definitely like a really interesting, kind of poetic, psychological kind of thing.
I have to keep that one in mind. I'm always down for a good recommendation, that's for sure. It's hard to get everything watched that you want to watch. There's still movies from last year that I haven't got to see yet. There's
for sure.
So many good movies out there, man.
There's so much. It's insane. Yeah, there's so much insane stuff.
Yeah, and like when I do my top 10 every year, I try to like watch as much as I can. I really pile it on like the last couple months, you know what I mean, and try to get everything watched. Somebody slipped through the cracks there, but it's an endless endeavor.
Yeah, man.
Which is awesome. I'm finding movies from back in the 80s I've never seen before, like early 90s. Like, where'd this come from? I thought I'd seen everything back there. Like, I love surprises like that,
Yeah, I love that when you see it in an older movie and it's just like so surprising and gripping, and you're like, oh shit, they were right. Like Maniac Cop 2 actually is good. Like I had no idea,
Yeah.
I just saw that one last year for the first time, and I was skeptical. Sometimes I'm skeptical of people into horror movies being like, no, Maniac Cop 2, man, you got to believe me. And it's like, I don't know, I don't have time. And then I watched it, I was like, oh, this is rad.
Yeah, I can remember watching those as a kid, like with my dad and stuff like that. I'm like, man, fucking Maniac Cop's awesome. It's like this big dude with the giant jaw playing this giant ass cop, like this is freaking cool shit. And that dude really looked like that outside the makeup. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had like an abnormally sized jaw, and he was just like crazy looking, It's like, this is a fucking awesome like character, use for this. I think that third Maniac Cop's okay too. So.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a third one in that series. Yeah. I love those like old gems and stuff that you just happen to stumble upon sometimes.
Yeah.
What were some of your like inspirations getting you started in filmmaking? Like besides like who, like director wise?
I mean, I think one of the things that really kind of blew my mind and got me into it when I was a kid was seeing Pink Floyd The Wall, which and I think you can see the influences of that in my movie, especially with Archenemy. You look at like I have this animation stuff that's kind of portraying this crazy guy's brain, and Pink Floyd The Wall did that. I think that's a movie that we don't think about enough as like an awesome movie on its own. I think it's sort of been subsumed into the Pink Floyd Roger Waters project, but like it's actually an insane movie directed by Alan Parker, who also made Angel Heart, which is another great one from the era. And I think, when I saw that movie, it disturbed me so badly that I think it just like scarred me with a kind of, I don't know, obsessive need to make movies because I had never encountered something that had like such a powerful, almost destructive, kind of emotional influence. So that was that was a really important one for me, and then William Friedkin's movies, whether it's The Exorcist or Bug, it's like he's just such a great kinetic filmmaker, and everything he does is so fascinating and cool. And anytime I sit down to work out a horror movie that I want to do, I look at The Exorcist and the way that it's like, it's so real, and it feels so, even just like an hour of that movie before there's even any real possession, but like it's still gripping, and like you're just into the world of the characters, and it feels like you just like into it, it just kind of rocks. And I'm fascinated with how people can make these movies that are on the one hand a slow unveiling before you get to something crazy, but on the other hand, like it just feels like it's kind of kicking ass the whole way through.
Yeah, The Exorcist, even like today's standards, still holds up like super well, man. And it's still freaking scary as shit,
Yeah, it really is. And it's gotten better, ever since whenever it was when they released the kind of more intense director's cut where you have her going backwards down the stairs and the bleeding out of her face. It's like it's just gotten better.
And the lore
it's gotten better
around
because, especially the more they make other exorcism movies, you always go back and you're like, yeah, no, The Exorcist is still the one. It still kicks your ass. Like you can't improve on this. Like it created a whole genre because it was so successful. But also, I mean, there have been some other good ones, that when they take a totally different turn, like The Exorcism of Emily Rose is kind of a cool movie, and it's not trying to compete with what The Exorcist did. It's doing its own thing.
Right.
But anytime, it's like, how many other movies have we seen where there's like some young girl screaming like, your mother sucks my dick, and you're like, okay, I've seen this before, man. But when you see it in The Exorcist, you're like, oh my God, what? This is horrific.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that watch it now, like I guess the younger generation, and check it out now, are like, what the fuck is this? Like, this came out when, It's like, yeah.
Seriously.
I'm also a big fan of the third movie as well. Like, the third one's fucking awesome.
I've never seen that one. I've heard that it's a gem. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, that was dark and trippy as shit. You can, I'm figure you probably seen the second Exorcist before. Have you seen the second one?
I've only seen the first one.
Okay, well, you can skip the second one.
To my great embarrassment.
The third one. Yeah, no reasons to go to the second one. The second one's all over the place, but it's like the first and third, like, man, holy shit. Yeah. I've really grown to love the third one, like, past 10 or so years, man. It's just grown on me, and it's so freaking good. Dude. It's like, yeah, highly recommend that one.
Yeah, right on.
I think it was on Shudder for a while. I'm not sure if it's still up there or not, but
man, I've been loving Shudder's collection of Italian old giallo movies. Like I just watched what is it called? The Red Queens that kills 7 times. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen that one.
Crazy. No. So crazy. I love all those movies. They're so stylish and weird. Yeah, Shudder is a cool space.
Yeah, I've been a fan of them since they first started up. I'm like, man, this is great. And I was checking out all the movies they had on there. Like, they got some deep cuts and some cool shit on here. And like, I've been with them since they started. I just fucking love everything they do. And then they do like the movie marathons on Friday, when the season's up, like Joe Bob and stuff. And I love that because it's like brings me back to being a kid again, where like you have horror hosts and everything. I think that's something special.
Yeah, so fun. I know.
Like,
I love
Twitter
that.
and tweet. Yeah, it's like you're not alone watching your movie. You're sitting there with like thousands of people, and you got this host with you. It's so awesome.
Yeah. There's a guy over at Shudder named Sam Zimmerman who does a lot of the curating and finds all of these things. And he's a guy that I met when I was just putting together my very first movie, and he was like an early supporter and really encouraged me and introduced me to other people. And I've been so I think back then he was working at writing for Fangoria, and I can just see his influence on Shudder every time they add all these new crazy deep cuts. I'm like, yeah, that's Sam. Like he knows more about horror than anybody.
And that's just like the best thing to have somebody that knows horror that good, to run the site like that with the selections. That's just like the best because, keeps people like me glued to that site.
Totally.
Um, I've been trying to get them for a while now, but like I tag him every now and again, Shutter. Or I think I tagged Craig as well about trying to revive. There's a show called Werewolf that came out in like 1988, 89.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like
You remember that?
it's kind of like the Incredible Hulk, but instead of
Yeah.
the Hulk, he turns into a werewolf, and he's kind of
Yes.
like on the run, wandering wolf guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Been trying to get that. Like, there's no Blu-ray of it. I don't even think it's on DVD. Yeah, if you find it on DVD, it's like bootlegs off of VHS somewhere. So I was like, "Hey, Shutter, you think you guys can get the right to this and throw this thing on Shutter? It would like kill if it did,
Yeah, that'd be a good one for them.
So I'm not mistaken. I think Rick Baker did some of the designs on the werewolves. And like,
Oh wow!
Yeah, they look freaking nasty, man. They're so cool. And I'm a big werewolf person. It's the whole name and art and all that shit. So I'm looking for the next great thing when it comes to werewolf movies, which it's kind of slim. Last good one I saw, I think, was Late Phases, I believe.
Yeah, that movie was cool.
Yeah,
that was a great take on it.
And then Howl, which was like I think a German werewolf movie with a weird take. Like the werewolves aren't really hairy; they're kind of more like caveman looking creatures. And I thought that one was pretty cool.
I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I definitely love Shudder. I love everything they're doing over there. Like, yeah, Shudder's awesome. Spectervision and Shudder are like the two best things that happened in a long time.
Yeah, they're good. They make for a good pair too. They got a lot of the Spectervision stuff is on Shudder. I don't know where Archenemy is going to wind up when it's time for it to stream. I don't know if it'll be on Shudder or not. I'd like to think it was, but it's not a horror movie. But my first two movies are on Shudder, so I love them. Yeah, they should just have like a Spectervision section, and you could just see the whole evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see Archenemy being on there. I know it's not a horror movie or whatever, but there's still some elements that are super dark and stuff. I think it'd fit in there, man.
Yeah, it's got those vibes. It's like I think there's a way you can think about like how can you make a movie that's not a horror movie that still has horror movie vibes. Which is a different thing than how do you make it scary or how do you it's like. You just you kind of understand. I don't know. It's like you said earlier. It's like that atmosphere. It's like what if you shoot a superhero movie, but it's got that atmosphere of a horror film. Kind of. I like to play with that.
Yeah, I don't like to I like to keep it broad when it comes to horror. Like there's certain people like, oh, that's not a horror movie, man, or that's blah blah. I'm like, it's still in the horror universe, man. Like,
yeah,
I consider a horror movie. I mean, even like Mandy, like. Mandy's not a straight up horror movie. It can be like a thriller, like, got a little bit of drama in there too. There are also a lot of horror elements, but it's not a straight up horror movie. But I consider that like, a horror movie.
Yeah, sometimes you have to call it something. It's some kind of genre. It's some kind of weirdness. It's like, I don't know. It's like all of our favorite shit was when you used to be able to go to the video store and they had a cult section.
Yeah.
It was like, that's just like movies they don't know what to do with, but they're the best movie. That's where you'd find Eraserhead and you'd find Repo Man and Liquid Sky, and just all the best kind of movies are this sort of like, well, it's kind of a horror movie, but really it's just fucking my head up, so I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, exactly. A good example of that for me would be like Lost Highway. I always revisit that one, but I revisited it like a couple months ago just for shits or whatever. I was like, God, this movie's so damn good and so fucked up,
Yeah, I love that one. It was weird. That was the one that people didn't really like when it first came out. I mean, it's sometimes it's hard to think of it because he's such a revered icon now, but like people kind of turned on him every now and then. Like they all hated Firewalk with Me. They all hated Lost Highway. And you go back and watch those movies now and you're like, this is his best shit. What the fuck is wrong with you?
So good. That soundtrack for Lost Highway, holy shit.
Yeah, I know. He was really on fire with all that.
When the scene when they started playing on the Rammstein song when he's in the house, I think the house is about to burn up. The main character, like, man, that is so fucking badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, big fan of his work and stuff. And like, yeah. And I also miss the video stores, as you're saying there, like with the cult sections and just having a physical video store. I really, really miss those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, because just wandering around in them was half the fun, and it's like, when we do that now on streaming, I think we all, you open up just start scrolling and like, you just find yourself kind of like lost, and you know, like, oh God, I've been scrolling for 45 minutes. I'm just gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, you used to go to a video store. I mean, it would sometimes drive people crazy when I was with them because you just walk through the aisles and you just want to look at pick up every movie. You ever seen this one? Yeah, it's great. You ever see this? Yeah, it's great. You know, like that.
Yeah. And like the friendships you would make with the video store clerks, like there's a bunch of dudes and people and stuff there I would like, you know, have conversations with about horror movies. I had a lot of knowledgeable people working at those stores, and like it's weird missing that.
Yeah.
I got a feeling that I think once all this shit's over with, maybe the smaller video stores make another comeback. So they were doing that for a little bit with some of like these cool little horror pop-up shops or whatever. So hopefully that, you know, comes back.
That'd be cool. Yeah. You're very optimistic. I like that.
Yeah, trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
Physical media is still kind of king. I still collect, even though I told my wife a couple of years ago, oh, I don't collect anymore. I'm done collecting. Yeah, I still collect stuff. So like as much physical media as I can get my hands on, I like, you know, just to have is something special about that, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm also thankful for streaming, especially in these crazy times. Like it's good to have millions of choices.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, at your fingertips. All right, well, Adam, I gotta go ahead and set my cat some food out and stuff and do my normal stuff around here. I really enjoyed the talk, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk to you, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you doing it and stuff. And yeah, have a good rest of your day and stuff. And I will be looking for your next movie.
Right on. Rock on, man. All right, we'll talk again soon.
Oh yeah, take it easy.
All right. Bye.
Bye.